Soon enough, we arrived in town, and the younger ones piled out of the back of the van as I modestly stepped down from the front seat. I tucked my basket under my arm and stood patiently as the children assembled in a line next to me at the curb. Finally, Isaiah came around to speak to me.
"I'll be occupied over at Joseph Stubbs' place,"
he said sternly, looking only at me.
"Be back here at 2:00.
3 hours. I had at least 3 hours before anyone would suspect anything, if I was lucky. I nodded, looking down at the ground in a gesture of submission. "Yes, Isaiah," I murmured. My husband turned on his heel and headed off down the street. As soon as he was out of earshot, the children began clamoring their agendas and begging for treats. "Can we stop for ice cream?" asked Matthew hopefully, his eyes beseeching mine. "Of course," I nodded, a lump rising in my throat. This was exactly what I had been planning to do, and yet, now with the reality of it facing me, I almost lost my nerve at the thought of leaving my 4 stepchildren with their father. An argument that I had had with myself 1,000 times flooded me with doubts, but I pushed them away with resolve. I had made my decision. There was no turning back now. "We'll go to Clancy's," I suggested, nodding my head in that direction. "I like Maybelle's better." Abigail frowned, pointing at the gaily colored pink and white storefront across the street. "We're going to Clancy's," I said firmly. "It's closer to the shops I need to go to. You 4 can sit and have your ice cream while I run my errands." A couple of the children grumbled, but the prospect of having unsupervised free time and ice cream meant that they couldn't sustain their bad mood. By the time we arrived at Clancy's, the younger ones were practically bouncing with joy. We walked into the ice cream parlor, a wall of cool, air-conditioned air hitting us as we went through the door. I closed my eyes for a moment to savor the feeling. I was unaccustomed to air conditioning, and it felt heavenly, given the itchy figure-concealing dress that all women of the WFZ ranch were obligated to wear. I stood in line with the children, waiting patiently as they hemmed and hawed over their selections, as though the decision meant life or death. "Are you sure we can have anything we want?" asked Matthew, wide-eyed. Usually, on the rare occasions that the children were allowed an ice cream treat, they were limited to a small cone with no extras. But today, I wanted to give them something special, something I hoped they would remember one day. A small kindness by the woman who had deserted them without so much as a goodbye. "Yes, anything," I smiled, "as long as it's meant for only one person." Finally, after much deliberating, all of the children had ordered and received their treats. I told Sarah to get the children seated while I paid, and then I went over to the booth they had chosen, close to a window with cheerful sun streaming through. I drew a deep breath. "All right, children," I said, trying to sound as normal as possible. "You stay right here and finish your treats. I have errands to run." "Aren't you going to get ice cream too?" inquired Aaron as he attacked a hot fudge sundae that was much too large for him. "No, I'm not hungry," I replied. At least that much was true. My stomach was doing flips and flops as though it was trying to leap out of my throat. "Sarah, you keep an eye on the children for me, you hear?" "Mm-hmm," Sarah said dreamily as she took a spoonful of her malt, then realized she had been impertinent. "Yes, ma'am," she corrected herself. I smiled, and suddenly I felt as though I might cry. I swallowed hard and blinked my eyes. "You children be good," I said, willing my voice not to crack. I touched little Aaron's blonde head one last time and left the ice cream parlor. Outside, I turned right and walked hurriedly the few blocks toward my destination. Once I arrived in the noisy terminal, I strode as quickly and unobtrusively as I could toward the bathroom. Mercifully, no one was in it, and I went to the large handicapped stall, shut the door, and quickly stripped off my clothing. Opening the basket, I took out the worn, faded jeans I had purchased at the Goodwill on our last trip into town. Next, I took out an ill-fitting yellow T-shirt that said, "One in a Minion," with a picture of a strange, bespectacled cartoon figure that I recognized and seemed popular. I hoped it would somehow make me look less conspicuous. Finally, I kicked off my hot, heavy shoes and exchanged them for a pair of cheap flip-flop sandals that I had chosen because they would take the least amount of room in the basket. It made me feel uncomfortable having my bare feet so exposed, but I told